So this is there's a story out of Texas that is actually very much related to this idea of justice for the producers of energy. So oil line pipeline protesters who now interrupt operations or damage equipment in the creation of pipelines could now face up, or if this legislation gets passed, could face up to 10 years in prison. And so this is legislation that's been approved of by Texas lawmakers. I don't think it's been finalized into law, but under this bill, protesters found guilty of halting service or delaying construction on an oil and natural gas pipeline could be charged with a third-degree felony and be punished by up to 10 years of incarceration. And environmental groups, unsurprisingly, don't like this. And one of them, represented the Sierra Club, called this an assault on free speech. And he said that this bill was never about safety and security. It was about silencing protesters trying to protect their water and land. And I think what Texas is doing is a good policy, and calling this a violation of free speech. I mean, it's really a deliberate attempt to blur the line between speech and action. Like, if it's speech if on your own property or on public property you say, oh, I don't like this, we shouldn't, allow it, it's wrong, it's dangerous, like that's speech. But when you're actually talking about people blocking and sabotaging projects, like that is a criminal action. That is vandalism. And the people doing it are thugs and saboteurs. They're violating the rights of oil and gas producers and of all of the people who choose to use and benefit from their product. And the only thing that my only negative reaction is that I don't think this really addresses what the most disturbing and problematic part of is that the worst blockers today aren't criminals, but so-called lawmakers and courts that allow every development, including pipeline developments, to either be totally taken off the table, as is often happening in places like New York, or it just becomes bogged down in so many delays that it costs 10 times as long and takes 10 times as long to build a pipeline as it should, which doesn't mean that we shouldn't be concerned about making sure that it's done safely in a way that protects the rights of everybody involved, including the public, but that is not what's motivating the people like the Sierra Club and these blockers. It's not an issue of protecting rights. It's that there's no development that they would be for. And it's bad enough to use the legal system, but when you actually turn to crime to stop it, then it should be punished as a crime, not as, oh, well, these little idealists, we'll just let them off with a slap in the wrist, because that puts us all at the mercy of basically vigilantes.
Yeah, right. That was also the word that went through my head. It's like this injustice vigilantes. So there's a proper place for protesting or opposing something like a pipeline project, and you can get a court injunction if you think there's some endangerment going on. And if the story of this Keystone XL pipeline going on for like 11 years and counting, there's plenty of time to get this settled. But of course, this is not free speech. If you're initiating violence against others, this is not free speech. It's not free speech if I break in Don's home to let his family know what I think. That's not free speech.
Yeah, or if we just empty out the bank accounts of the Sierra Club and we stand in front of their offices and stop people from getting to their desks because we think, oh, they're going to violate our rights, which, I mean, in that case, we would actually be telling the truth. No, that is not legitimate. Like, you have to, speech is speech. It's the communication of ideas. And once you go beyond the communication of ideas to actually blocking and preventing people from acting, you're not dealing with speech. You're dealing in a different realm. And that's where government does need to get involved and protect the rights that are actually being violated, which in this case is the companies.
I'm also curious. So usually I would say this should already be covered by the justice system, right? Because so this seems to be a special law in Texas for infrastructure damage of this type. I'm okay. We are both not legal experts, I guess, but like, why isn't that already covered? Like, people who damage other people financially, in this magnitude should certainly be treated as felons. I think. I don't.
I might be getting this wrong because I haven't read the legal the bill closely or the context, but my understanding is that what's really going on is increasing the penalty on the basis of impacting critical infrastructure.
Oh,
so that's the extension, and then there's a question of even how well that was, the previous laws were being enforced in these cases, but I think that's part of what's going on here.